Ex who left me for my little sis wants me back. Turns out she's cheating on him. So, yeah, I guess you could say my life was a bit of a mess from the start. I didn't have that perfect family everyone dreams of. My dad, Benny, wasn't really around much. He used to fight with my mom constantly, and then he'd just disappear for months. Sometimes, I didn't even know if he was alive. But honestly, I kinda got used to it. It was what it was, you know? I was maybe like 8 or 9 when I realized he wasn't coming back for good. He died when my sister Lisa was born, which just made my mom baby her even more. I don't mean my mom neglected me or anything like that. She did her best. I had food, a roof over my head, clothes to wear, but emotionally, I always felt like something was missing. My mom gave all her attention to Lisa. Every little thing she did was amazing, and it felt like I was just there. But, whatever. I didn't let it get to me too much. I was used to feeling second best. That all changed when I met Mark. I was celebrating my 18th birthday with a couple of friends at this restaurant downtown. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small spot we'd go to every now and then. That's when I saw him. Mark. He was 40, older than me by quite a bit, but he didn't look it. He was charming, mature, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. I was just this awkward teen, but he made me feel important. Looking back now, it's pretty embarrassing how quickly I fell for it. He'd always compliment me, buy me little gifts, and take me on long drives. I felt like I mattered for once, like someone finally saw me. I thought he was everything I'd been missing. We started dating, and honestly, things moved fast. Too fast, probably. But at that time, I didn't care. I was just happy to be with someone who made me feel loved. 4 years later, we got married. I was 22 and ready to start a family. I really wanted kids, but Mark had different ideas. He kept saying we should wait, that we needed to be more stable financially. He encouraged me to go back to school, even helped me get into a master's program. At first, I thought he was being supportive, like he wanted me to succeed. But now I'm not so sure. Maybe he just wanted me distracted. Anyway, I did the whole school thing, but deep down, I still wanted to be a mom. We talked about it off and on, but there was always an excuse: money, work, timing. I thought he was just being practical, you know? But I'd soon find out he had other reasons for stalling. About 5 years into our marriage, I noticed things started to change. Mark was still sweet, but there was this distance. He wasn't around as much. He'd go on these business trips for days at a time. At first, I didn't question it. I trusted him, or at least I thought I did. But then, there were small things that didn't add up, little lies here and there. One day he'd say he was in Boston, but then I'd find out he was still in town. I ignored it because, honestly, I didn't want to believe what was going on. But it all came crashing down when I found out the truth. One night, he told me he had to leave for a work trip again, this time for a whole week. I didn't think much of it, but something in my gut told me to check. I don't know why. I didn't normally do stuff like that, but this time, I just had a feeling. So I looked up his credit card transactions. I know, kind of snoopy, but at that point, I needed to know. There it was. He hadn't left town. In fact, he booked a hotel room just a few miles away from where we lived. I felt like I got punched in the gut. My hands were shaking and I couldn't think straight. I drove down to that hotel, hoping, praying that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't what I thought. Maybe there was some explanation, something innocent. But when I got there, I saw his car parked outside. I went inside, marched straight to the front desk, and told them I was his wife. The lady behind the counter gave me a look like she knew exactly what was going on, but didn't want to say anything. She told me his room number, and I went up, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I stood outside the door for what felt like forever, trying to decide if I even wanted to go through with it. When I finally knocked, Lisa opened the door. I can't even explain what that felt like. It was like everything around me just disappeared. My own sister. The one person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. I'd always been there for her, always took care of her when our mom was too busy spoiling her. And now she was sleeping with my husband. Mark was sitting on the bed behind her, looking at me like I was the intruder. I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there, staring at them, trying to wrap my head around what was happening. I asked him how long it had been going on. He didn't even try to lie. 6 months. For 6 months, the man I was married to and the sister I thought loved me were sneaking around behind my back. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to do something, but all I could do was stand there in shock. I finally asked him why. Why would he do this to me? And you know what he said? He said he didn't love me anymore, that I wasn't the same girl he fell in love with, that I wasn't giving him enough attention. Can you believe that? He had the audacity to make it my fault. I don't even know where to start with what happened next. Honestly, after everything blew up, it felt like I was stuck in some twisted reality. Everything that I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my family, all of it was shattered. And I had to figure out how to pick up the pieces, even though I didn't really know how to do that. Mark and I had this massive fight after I found out about him and Lisa. And when I say massive, I mean it was ugly. There was yelling, crying, and accusations being thrown all over the place. He tried to defend himself at first, saying things like, "It just happened," and "I didn't mean to hurt you," which is total bull because how do you accidentally sleep with someone for 6 months? That's not a mistake, that's a choice. But the worst part was when he started blaming me for it, saying I wasn't paying enough attention to him. Like, what? That's his excuse for betraying me? He basically said that because I was too focused on my career and not on him, he had no choice but to find someone else to give him attention. It was such a slap in the face. I mean, I worked my butt off to get my master's degree because he told me that's what we should do. Focus on our future, make sure we're stable before having kids. But now he was turning that around on me, making it seem like I was the bad guy for doing what he wanted in the first place. So, we had that fight, and I told him I wanted a divorce. He didn't even try to fight it. He just shrugged and said, "If that's what you want." Like it didn't matter at all. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised by his reaction, but it still hurt. After everything we'd been through, I thought he'd at least try to fix things. But no, he just gave up on us, on me, like it was no big deal. I didn't know what to do next. My whole world was falling apart, and I was just numb. I wasn't sure where to go or who to turn to. My mom wasn't any help. She made it clear that she was siding with Lisa, telling me that I should forgive and forget because family is family. Yeah, no thanks. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want anything to do with either of them at that point. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, I found out I was pregnant. I didn't even know how to process that. I was still trying to wrap my head around the fact that my husband had been cheating on me with my sister, and now I was pregnant? It felt like some sick joke. Part of me thought maybe the baby could change things. Maybe Mark would realize how badly he'd messed up, but deep down I knew it wouldn't fix anything. The stress from everything was unbearable. I tried to focus on taking care of myself, but it didn't matter. I lost the baby. I was completely crushed. That was supposed to be the one good thing in all this mess, and it was ripped away from me too. And where was Mark when this happened? Off with Lisa, of course. He didn't even come to the hospital to check on me. I was all alone, dealing with the worst pain I'd ever felt, both physically and emotionally, and he couldn't even bother to show up. After that, I knew I couldn't stay. There was nothing left for me here. The person I thought I'd spend my life with had betrayed me in the worst way possible, and my own family had turned their backs on me. I had to get out. That's when Karen stepped in, my best friend, my ride or die. She was moving to another state and asked if I wanted to come with her. I didn't even hesitate. I was already divorced at that point, and there was nothing keeping me in that town anymore. I packed up what little I had left, signed the final divorce papers, and left. Starting over was harder than I thought. Moving to a new state was supposed to be a fresh start, but the first few months were brutal. I didn't know anyone except Karen, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that had been weighing me down. I didn't trust anyone. I barely even trusted myself. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, half expecting Mark or Lisa to pop up and ruin my life even more. I know it sounds paranoid, but after everything that happened, I was scared. Karen did her best to help me get settled, though. She's the kind of friend who never gives up on you, no matter how many times you fall apart. She dragged me out of the house when I didn't want to go anywhere, forced me to meet new people, and slowly but surely, I started to feel like maybe, just maybe, I could have a life again. It wasn't easy, though. Trusting people again was probably the hardest part. I'd be talking to someone, trying to make new friends. But in the back of my mind, I'd always be wondering, what's their angle? Are they going to stab me in the back like everyone else did? It's exhausting living like that. But after being hurt so badly, it's like you can't help it. You're always on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, just when I thought I'd never be able to trust anyone again, I met Eric. It wasn't love at first sight or anything like that. To be honest, I didn't even want to date at first. I had this wall up, and I wasn't about to let anyone tear it down. But Eric was different. He didn't push. He didn't try to force his way into my life. He just waited. He'd show up with coffee when I was having a bad day, sit with me when I didn't feel like talking, and he never made me feel like I had to pretend to be okay when I wasn't. He let me heal on my own time, and that meant more to me than anything else. We took things slow, which was exactly what I needed. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. He made me feel safe, like I didn't have to keep my guard up 24/7. It wasn't long before I realized that what we had was something real, something that could last. About a year after I moved to the new state, Eric and I got married. It wasn't a big wedding or anything fancy, but it was perfect for us. His family welcomed me with open arms, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a real family. A family that actually cared about me. And now, we're expecting our first child, and I couldn't be happier. Update 1. So, there I was, finally feeling like my life was on track. I had a great husband, a baby on the way, and for once, I felt happy. I was starting to believe that maybe I could leave the past behind. But life doesn't always work like that, right? Just when things were going smoothly, I got that email from Mark. To be honest, I didn't even want to open it. The second I saw his name pop up in my inbox, my stomach dropped. It had been 6 years since we split, and I hadn't heard a single word from him. I figured he was living his life with Lisa and whatever mess they'd made for themselves. I didn't care. But curiosity got the best of me, and I opened the email. Mark wrote like nothing had happened between us, like we hadn't gone through the messiest breakup of my life. He started by saying he missed me, that he'd been thinking about me a lot lately. I rolled my eyes so hard I swear I almost saw my brain. I couldn't believe the nerve of this guy. He said he'd tried to find me but hadn't had any luck, probably because I made sure I disappeared from that whole town when I left. Then it got even weirder. He started talking about Lisa. Apparently things weren't going so great for them. He mentioned that she didn't care about him the way I did, that she didn't even bother celebrating his birthday. I had to laugh at that. Like, what did he expect? He thought she'd be the perfect replacement for me, and now he was complaining because she didn't bake him a cake or something? Give me a break. Mark went on to say that Lisa had been cheating on him, 5 times to be exact. The most recent one? With his own cousin Jack. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I mean, I didn't feel sorry for him, not one bit, but still. His cousin? That's messed up even by Lisa's standards. I couldn't help but laugh again. Like, did he really think this email was going to make me feel sorry for him after everything he put me through? He didn't stop there, though. He said he was miserable and that he was thinking about divorcing her. He even had the nerve to say he wanted to get back together with me, that he missed how we used to be and thought maybe we could start over, become a family again. Like, what? Did he forget why we ended in the first place? He was acting like none of that mattered, like I'd just forgive him and everything would go back to the way it was. At this point, I was furious. I couldn't believe the audacity. After everything he did, cheating on me with my own sister, abandoning me when I needed him the most, he had the nerve to ask me to take him back. It was like he didn't even understand what he'd done to me, or worse, maybe he just didn't care. I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, staring at my phone, thinking about all the ways I could tell him to screw off. Part of me wanted to just block him and move on, but another part of me, I don't know. I wanted him to know just how much he'd messed up. I wanted to say something that would hit him where it hurt, to make sure he knew there was no chance in hell I'd ever take him back. But then I realized, why should I waste any more energy on him? He didn't deserve my time, my thoughts, nothing. He was just trying to get a reaction out of me, trying to see if he still had some kind of control over my life. And you know what? I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. That's when I decided to write him back. But not with the angry rant I'd originally planned. Instead, I kept it short and to the point. I told him I was sorry that he was miserable, but that he had made his choice when he chose Lisa over me. I let him know that I was now happily married to someone who actually loved and respected me, and we were expecting our first child. I ended the email by telling him never to contact me again. I hit send, and that was it. It felt freeing in a way, like I was finally closing the door on that part of my life for good. I didn't need to explain myself to him anymore. He was part of my past, and that's where he was going to stay. A few hours later, he replied, I didn't want to read it, but curiosity got the best of me again. He said something about being stupid for thinking I'd wait for him and that no matter what, I'd always be his baby doll. Ugh, that nickname used to make me feel special. But now, it made me want to throw up. The way he wrote it, like he still thought he had some kind of claim on me, it was disgusting. That was the final straw. I blocked him after that and decided I wasn't going to give him any more space in my life. But it didn't stop there. A day or two later, I got an email from my mom and Lisa. Apparently, Mark had told them about my pregnancy, and they were both acting like nothing had ever happened. My mom was excited about becoming a grandmother, and Lisa? She actually had the nerve to say she couldn't wait to be the cool aunt. I couldn't believe it. These were the same people who turned their backs on me when I needed them most. The same people who betrayed me and took Mark's side when everything went down. Now they wanted to act like we were one big happy family. I was livid. I didn't respond to them. I didn't even bother. I just blocked them too. I didn't need their fake congratulations or their empty apologies. They weren't part of my life anymore, and they never would be. Eric was there through all of this. He held me when I cried, comforted me when I felt like I couldn't handle it, and reminded me that I had a new family now, a family that loved me for who I was and didn't try to tear me down. He's been my rock through all of this, and I don't know what I'd do without him. So yeah, that's where things stand now. Mark, Lisa, my mom, they're all out of my life for good, and I'm finally okay with that. I've got Eric, our baby on the way, and a future that looks brighter than it ever did before. They can keep their drama. I'm done with all of it. Update 2. After blocking Mark, Lisa, and my mom, I thought that would be the end of it. I mean, how many times can someone come back into your life and cause chaos before they just give up? I'd already moved on, found peace, and was building a future with Eric. But of course, life wasn't done throwing surprises my way. A couple of weeks after I sent that final email, I was just going about my day, trying to enjoy the calm for once. Eric had gone to work, and I was home, sorting out baby stuff. We were getting closer to my due date, so I was all about organizing the nursery, folding baby clothes, and planning how we were going to handle everything once our little one arrived. Then my phone buzzed. I figured it was one of those spam messages or some random notification, but when I picked it up and saw the name on the screen, I swear I nearly dropped the phone. It was Lisa. I hadn't spoken to her since I blocked her, so for her to pop up now made no sense. The only reason her message even came through was because she sent it from a new number. Honestly, part of me didn't even want to read it. I was done with her drama. But against my better judgment, I opened it. Lisa was saying that she needed to talk to me, that it was urgent and about the family. She didn't give any details, just kept begging me to call her back. I sat there for a good 5 minutes, debating whether I should just delete the message and pretend I never saw it. But something about the way she said it was urgent got to me. Like, was someone sick or something? My mom wasn't exactly young, and I hadn't heard anything about her in a while. I thought, fine, I'll just call her and get it over with. So I dialed the number. As soon as she picked up, Lisa launched into this whole sob story about how her life was falling apart. She sounded like she was crying, and at first I was too shocked to really say anything. She just kept going on and on about how she and Mark were splitting up, how he'd filed for divorce, and that he had been telling everyone that she was to blame for everything that went wrong. She said she felt like the whole world was against her, and she didn't know what to do. Now, here's where it got weird. She wasn't calling to apologize or even acknowledge what she did to me. No, she wanted me to help her. She was asking if I could talk to Mark, maybe smooth things over with him because, apparently, he still respected me, and she thought maybe I could convince him not to go through with the divorce. Can you believe that? I couldn't even process what she was saying. After everything she did to me, after betraying me in the worst way possible, she had the nerve to ask for my help in saving her marriage. It was like she completely forgot about how she destroyed mine. I couldn't hold back anymore. I cut her off mid-sentence and just let it all out. I told her exactly what I thought, how she was insane to think I'd help her, how I didn't care about what happened between her and Mark, and how she deserved every bit of misery she was going through. I reminded her of everything she'd done to me, how she'd wrecked my life, and how, frankly, I didn't give a damn about hers anymore. It was one of those moments where you just get it all off your chest and you don't even care about the consequences. It felt good to finally say it. I wasn't going to pretend to care about her problems, not after everything she'd done. Lisa tried to cut in, crying, saying she made a mistake, that she wasn't thinking straight back then. But it was too late for that. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses. I told her straight up that she needed to deal with her own mess and leave me out of it. And before she could say anything else, I hung up and blocked her number again. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but of course it wasn't. A few days later, I get another message, this time from my mom. Apparently, Lisa had run crying to her after our conversation, and now my mom was trying to guilt trip me. She started going on about how family sticks together, and how Lisa was really struggling right now and needed support. I couldn't believe it. My mom had always been on Lisa's side no matter what, but I thought maybe this time she'd realize how messed up things were. Nope, she went right back to defending Lisa, acting like I was the one who needed to reach out and make things right. I sent her a pretty blunt reply. I told her I wasn't interested in hearing any more about Lisa or Mark, that I'd moved on, and she should too. I reminded her how she'd taken Lisa's side all those years ago and that she had no right to tell me how I should feel or who I should support. I told her I wasn't going to be part of their lives anymore and that if she couldn't accept that, then it was her problem, not mine. After that, I blocked her too. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I wasn't going to let them drag me back into their drama. I had my own life now, a new family that actually cared about me, and I wasn't about to risk that for people who only wanted me around when they needed something. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. The second I cut them off, I felt this weight lift off my shoulders. I didn't realize how much their negativity had been dragging me down until I was finally free from it. Eric noticed the change in me too. He told me I seemed lighter, happier. I guess I hadn't even realized how much I'd been holding on to until I finally let it go. It's funny how people who claim to be your family can be the ones who cause the most pain. But when you find the right people, the ones who truly love you, it makes all the difference. So that's where I'm at now. My focus is on my baby, my husband, and building a life that's full of love and peace, not drama. I don't need the chaos of my past anymore. I'm done with all of it. Sure, sometimes I wonder if they'll ever change, if they'll ever realize the damage they did. But honestly, it doesn't really matter to me anymore. They can keep living their lives the way they want, but I won't be a part of it. Not now. Not ever. Update 3. I'd like to say that after cutting off Lisa and my mom, everything just magically fell into place, and life was smooth sailing from there. But things are never that simple, right? Even when you think you've left the past behind, it sometimes finds a way of creeping back in. It was about 2 months after that whole mess with Lisa when the final straw came. I was at home, folding some baby clothes, thinking about how soon our little one would be here. I'd been feeling good. Really good, actually. Eric and I were in such a solid place, and everything felt right for the first time in years. Then, out of nowhere, I get a call from an unknown number. I didn't think much of it at first. I'd been getting a lot of spam calls lately, so I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Maybe it was the pregnancy paranoia, or maybe it was just curiosity. I don't know. Either way, I answered. Hey, Jenna, it's Mark. I froze. I literally had no words. My brain was trying to process what was happening. How did he even get my number? I had blocked him from everything, hadn't spoken to him since that ridiculous email he sent me about wanting to get back together, and now here he was, casually calling me like we were old friends. Before I could even ask how he got my number, he jumped into this long rant about how everything was falling apart in his life. He said Lisa had moved out, filed for divorce, and had taken everything, including the car that he'd bought with our money back when we were married. He kept saying how unfair it was, how he didn't deserve this, and how he was completely alone. I didn't say a word. I just let him talk. And the more he talked, the more pathetic he sounded. It was like he didn't even realize how all of this was his own doing. He acted like he was the victim, like everything bad that was happening to him was some kind of cosmic punishment. Not once did he apologize for what he did to me, for how he treated me, or even acknowledge the fact that this whole mess started because he cheated on me with my sister. When he finally stopped talking, there was this long silence. I think he was waiting for me to say something, maybe comfort him or tell him it would all be okay. But I had nothing to say to him. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I was just done. So I simply said, Mark, you made your choices. Now you have to live with them. Don't call me again. And I hung up. I sat there for a minute, staring at my phone, just trying to wrap my head around what had just happened. It wasn't even about Mark at that point. It was the fact that, after everything he'd put me through, he still thought he had the right to reach out to me, to ask for help, to expect anything from me. I wasn't upset, though. I actually felt a sense of relief. That call was like the final chapter closing on everything I'd been through with him. I didn't need closure from Mark, and I definitely didn't need to help him fix his life. He wasn't my problem anymore, and that felt amazing. After that, things really did settle down. I blocked his number, of course, just to be sure he couldn't try contacting me again. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't have to worry about my past creeping back into my life. Eric and I continued preparing for the baby, and life was peaceful. It was almost surreal how quiet things had gotten after years of dealing with family drama and betrayal. It's like I was finally free to just live my life without constantly looking over my shoulder. When our baby girl finally arrived, it was like everything clicked into place. Holding her for the first time, I felt this overwhelming sense of love and protectiveness. It made me realize even more how important it was to keep toxic people out of my life. I wanted to give her the kind of family that was full of love and support, not the kind of chaos and betrayal that I had grown up with. Eric was the perfect partner through it all. He was there for every moment, Every late night feeding, every diaper change, every breakdown when I felt overwhelmed. And every time I looked at him, I was reminded of how lucky I was to have found someone who truly cared about me. Someone who didn't just talk about love, but actually showed it every day in the way he treated me and our daughter. The best part? Eric's family embraced me like I was one of their own. His mom was constantly checking in on us, bringing over food, offering to help with the baby, and his dad was just as amazing. It was like I'd finally found the family I always wanted but never had. It wasn't just about blood, it was about the people who choose to show up for you, who actually care. And that's when I realized family isn't just the people you're born into, it's the people who stick by you, who support you, who love you no matter what. The ones who show up when you need them and don't disappear when things get hard. I might have lost my family along the way, but I gained something so much better. As for Mark and Lisa, I haven't heard from either of them since that last call. Part of me wonders what they're up to, if they finally managed to sort out their own mess. But honestly, it doesn't matter. They're not part of my life anymore, and I'm okay with that. I don't need them, and I don't miss them. What I have now, Eric, our daughter, and the life we're building together, that's all that matters. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that whatever comes next, I'm ready for it. And for the first time in a long time, I'm truly happy. So yeah, that's my story. I guess if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from the people who hurt you, no matter how hard it is. It's not about holding grudges or being bitter. It's about choosing yourself, choosing happiness, and not letting anyone take that away from you. And for anyone who's going through something similar, I'll say this. Don't be afraid to cut out the people who don't deserve a place in your life. You deserve better. You deserve love, respect, and peace. Don't settle for anything less.